Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Get to Know Them. I am so happy you're here today. And if this happens to be your first time watching the show, welcome. My name is Monica Graves. I'm your host. And this is a show that I created back when the pandemic hit. A dream of mine to do a show where I get to talk to the most inspiring, amazing people that I know and introduce them to you in the hopes that you'll walk away with great information and feeling inspired yourself. So the only thing you have to do is just sit back and relax for the next 45 minutes to an hour and hear the story of our awesome guest this week. I'm going to introduce her in just a moment, but before I do that, first of all, it sounds like I have a cold, but you know what? I don't know about you guys, but the pollen has been so bad. It's really just an allergy thing I'm having. So hopefully there's no coughing fits in this one like I had a couple of weeks ago. I have my water here and I can always hit the mute button and let my guest speak if that happens. But yeah, so for those of you suffering with allergies, I hope you're doing better. Actually, with the rain coming down has helped a lot, so that's good. Um, I have two sponsors for my show who I would love to introduce you to. So the first sponsor is Brenda Badome. She is an amazing clothing designer for women located in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm always wearing her clothes on the show. And if you look in my social media, you can see the top I'm wearing today, as well as the pants. It's in my Instagram and Facebook stories. Her pieces are beautiful. So if you need to refresh your wardrobe, please go to brendabadome.com. Use the coupon code Get to Know Them, and you will receive 22% off of your order, which is awesome. And my second sponsor, oddly enough, is myself. So I am a jewelry designer and I have my own company. It's called Glam Jewels, GLAMJULZ.com if you're checking us out online. And you can go there and look at all of our pieces, maybe find some jewels to go with your Brenda Badome clothes. And we have a lot of amazing pieces for fundraising purposes that give back to communities. So make sure you take a look at those. And we always appreciate your support. So thank you so much. Now, are you guys ready? Because I am really, really excited to chat with our guest today. I'm going to read you her bio and then bring her on right away. Today, we have Alanna McGinn with us. Nobody loves sleep more than Goodnight Sleep Site founder Alanna McGinn. Since 2007, Alanna has established Goodnight Sleep Site as being a #1 sleep resource for families, and her team of sleep consultants strive to help families, babies, all the way up to adults, and corporations overcome their sleep challenges and have well-rested smiles in the morning. Alanna serves on the faculty of the Sleep Family Institute. She is a certified stress management coach and is host of This Girl Loves Sleep podcast. You can follow Alanna's expert advice in national publications like Forbes, The Plains, Prevention Magazine, and Today's Parents. Alanna is also the leading sleep expert on Cityline and Breakfast Television. Alanna lives in Toronto, Canada, with her husband and their 3 children, 1+ twins. You can find out more about Alanna McGinn and how to work with a Goodnight Sleep consultants at goodnightsleepsite.com. Alanna also has great sleep tips on her Instagram page. I'm excited to hear all about what got Alanna interested in sleep and what gave her the passion to help others with their sleep. Also, wait until you hear how the two of us met. That's a good story as well. So we can't wait to talk about that. Alanna!
Hello. I've had so
I'm
much
so
fun looking at your bookshelves behind you and all the fun treats you have. I love it.
Well, you know what? I was tuning into your podcast and I didn't realize you were a pop culture
I
fanatic as
know.
well.
I'm loving
Yeah.
it. And I'm wanting to take up roller skating, but I'm too scared. But those roller skates are
Oh,
like calling out to me.
Do not be scared. I'm
While.
First of all, anytime you want to meet me on a Thursday night at Scooters in Mississauga, they have lessons at 7. You do one of those lessons and you're good.
Oh my
So if
gosh.
you're free tomorrow night,
Maybe
are you free
that
tomorrow
is
night?
fun. So when is it? Thursday nights at Scooters. Okay.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
sponsored. We're gonna give them a
7
shout out.
o'clock. Yeah, yeah. 7 o'clock is the lesson. It's so funny. Somehow Scooters comes into every interview I do. So I think
Well,
they
they
need
need
to
to
start a
sponsor you. Yeah,
sponsorship.
I think so too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So Alanna, I'm so excited. And as you know, the first question I wanted to ask you is what did little Alanna want to be when she grew up? But before we go there, I wanted to let the folks know how you and I met because this is like really cool. So we met so many years ago and we've been in touch on Facebook ever since. And then today when we're doing the warm up, and the sound check, I was like, Alanna, did I meet you at Joelle's on Grant Street in Burlington? And it's like click, click, click. And then you reminded me of your former business, which
Yeah.
was called Diva Girls, right?
Diva Shoppers. So
Diva Shoppers,
this
right.
was years ago. I think you might have just been starting out too. Like this
Yeah.
was in the early years. And yeah, I ran this was even before like Instagram and Facebook were big. Cause I think had I started it once that took off, I would have been more successful. But I started a jewelry boutique online jewelry boutique, and I would buy jewelry to sell, and I would go to the wholesale conventions and things like that, and found you through Joelle's, and I wanted to use some local businesses and sold glam jewels, and that's
Yeah.
how you and I first connected. And then
Yeah.
we had mutual friends. And then once I started Goodnight, I remember buying glam jewels for team gifts and things like that. And yeah, that was like a
Yeah.
while ago though. Yeah.
God, that was such a good flashback because I think you're right. You and I both, it would be around 2000. Like, could be,
Well, no, maybe it was a bit,
or,
it was before my eldest was born, and that was in 2007. So maybe for me,
okay.
it was more like 2004-ish,
Okay. Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
sounds right.
2002,
Wow.
3, 4. Yeah. Yeah.
God, I love it. And I'm so happy that we remembered that because I mean, you've always been such an incredible entrepreneur. Like I've really looked up
That's of
to you
you.
and oh my God, you're amazing. Okay, so let's get back to the first question, which is what did little Alanna want to be when she grew up?
I wish I could just say one thing, but it was never just the one thing. Like,
Yeah.
it has morphed and changed so much. So I think the earliest thing I could think of when you asked me this question when I was really little, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I think every kid wanted to be a marine biologist at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And then it morphed to makeup. I wanted to be a makeup artist. And then it morphed to music. I wanted to work in the music industry. I am not a musician. I do not, unfortunately, have those talents, but love music. Music is such a huge part of my life, and that's really where I thought I'd end up. It working within the on the business side of things. But that was in the 90s when I feel like the music business has changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
Um, so, then and at the end of the day, always wanted to run my own business. I just never really knew what that was going to be. I lived in a home of entrepreneurs. My dad was a business owner. My mom, now looking back on it in a way was too, she was a housewife, stayed home with the kids, but always ran a home daycare. So in a way, always worked for herself as well. So it was something that I was always around, something I always knew I wanted to do, just never really knew what or how until I kind of
Gosh.
started. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I love that. And so what did you sort of do throughout school, Alanna? Like did you go do anything after high school or were you right into working right away?
So after
I,
high school, I did take a gap year
yeah.
where I worked as an intern at a music label. So I was in the industry I wanted to be in, loved it, was young. I think I was like 19 or 20, but then realized I had to go to school. So went to Sheridan, graduated with my business marketing diploma. And then kind of dived into the world of fashion at first, which kind of where stemmed Diva Shoppers, which stemmed the music or the jewelry business. And didn't, if you would have told me back in the day I would be running a sleep business, I would have said, like, why does anyone need help sleeping? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then had my first daughter and realized, oh, so this is what no sleep feels like. I get it. And that's kind of how Good Night Sleep Site was started.
Wow. So were you always a good sleeper before you had your children? Like, didn't
I
have trouble?
was, yeah. Sleep,
Mhm.
is never super hard to come by for me. I mean, listen, I am human. There are still times in my life, and now being older, where I can struggle for a few nights or something.
Mhm.
But as any parent, I'm sure watching this, until you have a baby and suddenly you are on their routine, and as we know, babies don't sleep right from the beginning or at all. You don't really realize what it's like to not have any sleep. And my industry, the sleep coaching and sleep consulting, if we talk about just babies and toddlers, if we just talk about that division of it, is still relatively new. When I first had my daughter in 2007, there was no such thing as this industry. You were reading books and talking to people and things like that, and getting advice from friends and family and mothers and stuff. So it's a very fast growing industry, but still a relatively new one.
Yeah. So this is what fascinates me is that, you have your daughter, you realize, oh my goodness, I'm not getting enough sleep. There must be other moms out there going through what I'm going through. And then you're looking at like babies to adults and seeing like, wow, like this is an actual problem and it's something I can help other people with. Like, how did that all come together? Because I think for most people, they kind of go through the motions, the kids get older, then they get like, what was it that made you decide, I want to really help people with this?
Well, it kind of was a snowball effect. When I first had my daughter, I was kind of one of the first in my group of friends to start having kids. So once I had her, got advice from some other friends who had had babies, and did all the readings and did all the work with her. And then once friends started having babies, then they would come to me for advice, or, friends of friends would be referred to me for advice. It wasn't though until, and I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That was really important. And it was important for our family dynamic for me to stay at home. But I wanted to still bring in an income. So at that time, never did I think I would grow a business to, where it's grown to. But it was important for me to be able to stay at home with the kids, do all the things I needed to do at home with them, but then also still contribute financially to the house. So started, again, helping friends and friends of friends. But it wasn't until I was pregnant with my twins that I found out that you could actually get certified to become, again, new industry, right? Certifications were
Yeah.
starting to be built. So it was at that point where I got certified as a certified sleep consultant. I remember hitting publish on my website. My twins were looking at me in their bouncy chairs, and my toddler was running around the house, and built the website by myself and hit publish on it, and started Good Night Sleep Site at that point. At that point, it was just me. And I didn't start bringing on other consultants till probably about 3 or 4 years in. Yeah. And then it's
Wow.
grown since then, and then started the adult and the tween and teen division, because then that age group was coming to me and saying, listen, my kids are sleeping great, but we're not sleeping great. So, then started to get into adult sleep and tween and teen sleep and stress management and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, great. And this idea to scale it and to bring in sleep consultants under your umbrella, that is brilliant as well. Like you looked at it as like this is bigger than just me, right?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it was a good problem to have. I was, because I
Mhm.
was kind of at the forefront of this industry, I was busy and I couldn't keep up with all the families that were coming to me. So I thought, okay, how do I rectify this? So hired a business coach who helped me put together a model to bring on team members. My she's in Ottawa now. She was my Halton consultant. She's still my consultant. She was my very first hire 10 plus years ago. And she's still with me. I'm very fortunate where a lot of my team members have been with me for, 5, 6, 7 years. And, they're doing a similar thing. Many of them are stay-at-home moms who want to be able to work with, it's a very satisfying job, who want to be able to help families and work with families, but stay home with their kids too. So, creating those opportunities for other mothers who are in a situation like me, where yes, we want to stay home with our kids, but we do need to provide income into our family, was pretty amazing to be able to do. So that's kind of what my team consists of. So we get it. We get it when, the kids are sick one day, or when we've got summer vacation coming up and kids are going to be home all the time. It's we have a great group. I'm pretty biased, but they're a great group.
Amazing. I love that. And so, when I think of the people who tune into my show, the demographic is a lot of like the 40 plus, like the Gen X sort of. I think is 40 Gen X, maybe not, maybe 50, 45.
No, I'm Gen X, so yeah, I think we're like on.
Yeah, right on the cusp. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of us like now in that stage of menopause, and people are just having different stresses in their lives. Like, doesn't even necessarily have to be hormonal. They just can't sleep because they're tossing and turning and worrying about things, aging parents, all of this kind of thing. So if somebody reaches out to you, Alanna, like, what is the process for them to start working with a sleep consultant? I'd love to know how that.
So for that, we do offer one-on-one programs for babies up to like elementary school ages, so up to about 8 years of age. We also have a do it at your own pace programs, and that's where our adult programs fall into. So I'm not a sleep therapist, so I don't work as a sleep therapist for adults one-on-one. That's when I would refer out if they needed to, go further. Let's say they are suffering from, perhaps chronic insomnia, where they need to look at cognitive behavioral therapy. That's not something as a therapist, or as not a therapist, that I can offer, but I can refer out to them. Or if I feel like I'm seeing red flags where maybe sleep apnea might be a concern, I refer them out to their doctor to have that conversation. So what I do is I work in that age group, is I work a lot with corporate. So we run a lot of corporate webinars and lunch and learns, and more businesses since the pandemic, I will say, are really putting such a huge focus into the mental health of their team and of their organization, which is, as we know, is so important. And sleep definitely falls into that. So more and more companies are starting to survey their employees on, okay, what health topics do you want to learn about and know about? And sleep is always number one. So I'm booking a lot of lunch and learns and corporate webinars and in-persons to work with team members and companies to help them sleep better. I always say, listen, getting your team sleeping better is a game changer for your business plan, right? So that's kind of where I work. On the adult side of it, we also have a do it at your own pace adult sleep program as well.
Okay, that's fascinating. Yeah, wow, that is so great. So speaking of the mental health part of it, I'm sure, like, how has your business changed since COVID? Like, are you seeing people that are coming to you more with sleep issues as a result of the pandemic, or what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, definitely all of our sleep took a hit throughout the pandemic. Coming out of the pandemic, we did see a huge increase in that tween and teen age group. I would say even going as young as like 7, 8, 9 years of age. Just, with the difference of routines and with all the issues that we all went through with the pandemic, it makes sense. But yes, we're still feeling the repercussions of the pandemic for our mental health, whether we're still working remotely, we're back out into the world, or whatever is happening. It's such a ripple effect, I think, that we're going to continue to see for years to come. And sleep was definitely a pillar of health that definitely took a hit during the pandemic. So throughout the pandemic, I have to say, we saw a huge increase in corporate bookings for sure. That has dwindled down a little bit. But thankfully, we're still, and not in terms of sales. When I say thankfully, we are still seeing these bookings, and that is showing me that thankfully businesses are still understanding that, okay, yes, the world has returned back to normal, and we can look at it that way, but they're still taking stock and having importance on their overall team's mental health and sleep, nutrition, exercise, all of those things. Connection falls all under that.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great. So there's a term that kind of flies around a lot that people talk about, and I wanted you to just sort of clear up what it means, and that is people talk about sleep hygiene. So the first time I heard that term, I thought it meant, having a shower before you go to bed every night, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of how it's interpreted. But what does sleep hygiene mean exactly, Alanna? What is that?
So yes, I mean, the term hygiene isn't what we would think normal hygiene is, right? Taking
Yeah.
a shower, brushing our teeth, doing all those things. Sleep hygiene are really lifestyle changes. They are steps and practices that an individual would practice in order to have optimal sleep health. And there's a few things that fall under sleep hygiene. So simple sleep hygiene steps, again, looking at it as at an overview of like changing lifestyle habits, are, consistent sleep patterns, trying to go to bed at the same time every night, waking up at the same time every morning, putting more of a focus on actually going to bed when you feel tired, not just when you think you should go to bed, and putting more of a focus on staying as consistent as you can with that morning wake time. Things like environment. We saw, our sleep environment is such an overlooked tool that can be so utilized in terms of bettering our sleep health. And what I mean by that is it's so important that we protect our sleep space for just sleep and sex only, right? So, but what we saw happen throughout the pandemic is because so many of us now are working remotely from home, our bedrooms had to become our home offices. They had to become our kids' classroom. We didn't really have a choice in that. Logistically, that's kind of how it had to play out. And because of that, when we are doing things in our bedroom that isn't associated to sleep, we are weakening that association. So I want you to be able to walk into your bedroom and have that instant cue and that instant association to calmness, to relaxation, to sleep, whether it just be in your bedroom or whether it be when you're getting in your bed. But if we're on our computer in our bed and surfing on the phone in our bed and watching TV in our bed and folding our laundry and working out in our room and doing all of these things, we're weakening that association. So really putting focus in making sure that we're clearing the clutter in our bedroom, focusing on creating a conducive sleep environment. We're in the season of really bright mornings, and maybe later bedtimes for our little kids if they're going to bed earlier. So darkening up the room as best we can at night, but then allowing that natural light to come in the morning. That's the best way that we're going to wake up naturally. And then really customize. I always say customize your side of the bed to you, whether you sleep alone, whether you share a bed with somebody. What you sleep in and on your side of the bed doesn't necessarily have to be the same as your partner's, because you might have your own individual sleep needs. So for instance, if you're a hot sleeper, like I'm a night sweater, if your partner is more of a cold sleeper, it wouldn't make sense that we would be using the same blanket. It wouldn't even make sense that we would be using the same bedding. A fitted blanket, a fitted sheet on the mattress is, you just have the one, but maybe you would need a lighter comforter, whereas your partner needs a thicker duvet, or the fabric of the pajamas you're wearing, you would wear more breathable fabrics, organics, cottons, linens, wicking fibers, where maybe your partner prefers to sleep naked or prefers to sleep in flannels. So really customize your side of the bed to you. Other steps and practices that fall under sleep hygiene are just a simple bedtime routine. We do these extravagant bedtime routines for our kids, but then we don't really put one in mind for us. And it's hard to go from 100 to 0 and prepare your body and mind to sleep. So what are some activities, some calming and relaxing activities that you can do for yourself, that you enjoy doing for yourself to help prepare you to go to bed? Get more organized for the morning so that to-do list isn't constantly swimming in your head. So again, lifestyle changes kind of fall under that umbrella of sleep hygiene overall.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. I actually listened to your podcast about, why we fall asleep better with a blanket and everything. And
Mhm.
you said something which you just said now. My mom always said, she said, to my brother and I both, when you kids get married, the key to a happy marriage is separate blankets. She and my dad always had separate blankets. And it's so funny because it's true. Like, I can't believe how often you talk to couples and they are like, oh my God, my husband or my wife is such a blanket hog. And then I tell them, hey, you can actually have your own blanket.
Separate
Oh,
blankets,
it's like
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure,
It's a
for sure.
revelation. Yeah, I love that. That's so good. So, your podcast, you're full of information there. You've got like great sources of information everywhere, your Instagram, your podcast. And now I was so happy to see you as a regular guest on or not a guest, like you're really a consultant on Gina Livy's
Yes.
program, which if people are
Yeah.
familiar with the Living
And
Method, you can
member,
look up.
and member.
Yeah,
Yep.
me too.
Yeah.
God, what a game changer, eh?
Oh, huge. I started that
Totally.
program, I think the September coming out of COVID. So it must have been September 2022, maybe 2020.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Um, and got back to, as the pandemic happens, we all put on a couple pounds. Got back to a weight that I was happy, and really loved the program itself, so
Mhm.
was thrilled when she asked me to become a sleep expert, because I am part of the community. So I'm able
Yeah.
to not only speak to sleep but able to speak to the program and still use it. I'm doing the program right now. We're on week
Yeah.
9.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great. Yeah, love it.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. So, all of these things like I think it's a good thing to talk about as well is I always ate before bed before I did that program. Like I would have dinner, then I'd have a cup of tea, maybe have a cookie, have whatever. And now, through this Gina Livy's program and learning about your body just needing to calm down, that melatonin is kicking in, you don't want to necessarily give yourself more food, insulin spiking up and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
That was a real eye opener, and I feel like that was a huge part of my success, to just be able to stop eating after dinner and allowing my body to
Yeah.
dial down and rest. So what actually happens, Alanna, when we eat, like if you're eating at like 9 o'clock and going to bed at 10, what's going on in your body?
Well, what we want to always avoid is, listen, our bodies can only work on a few things at once, right? So when
Mhm.
we're sleeping, we really want our body really working hard on restorative sleep. And it doesn't even have to work that hard, because sleeping itself is just it's just what our body does. But we want our body to be able to really focus on that restorative sleep. So, for instance, if we have a big meal right before we go to bed, or if our room is too hot or too cold, our body, instead of working on getting great quality, often we just talk about the quantity of sleep, those 7 to 8 hours or 6 to 9 hours. But we really need to be focusing on the quality of sleep that we're getting throughout that time. I always say I would rather someone get like 4 to 5 hours of quality, good restorative sleep than 7 to 8 hours of like broken, fragmented junk sleep.
Yeah.
So if our body is busy digesting that big meal, or warming up and cooling down because the temperature isn't right in the room, it's not able to work on getting that restorative sleep. So that's why it's really important to, aside from Gina's program, just on a sleep front, to really avoid eating big, heavy meals at least 4 hours before you go to bed. Now, that being said, we also want to focus on regulating our blood sugar levels while we sleep. And if you are someone who is having consistent, 3 a.m. wakings or 4 a.m. wakings, it could be for different reasons. One of them could be a dip or a spike in blood pressure, or not blood pressure, sorry, blood sugars.
Mhm.
So, if you need to have a small bedtime snack of, think like complex carbs, protein, a banana with some peanut butter, or a grain toast with peanut butter, or like a yogurt and granola, that's okay. don't just do it because you just want to eat something, but if you're having that consistent wake up, it could be that dip in blood sugar. So to keep your blood sugar levels elevated and leveled while you're sleeping, you might need to have a bit of that bedtime snack before you go to bed, but stay away from like big, heavy dinner meals right before you go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. I also like what you're saying about the quality of sleep versus quantity, because I was always like, I need at least 7 hours sleep or it's not good. Like 7 to 9 is my ideal. But since, going on Gina's program, and also, I drink the calm magnesium before bed.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't believe it now, Alanna. Like there are times where, we all have that where like I'm only going to be able to get 6 hours sleep. But when I drink that calm magnesium, it's the quality, I can't even believe it. I've actually woken up thinking I slept in, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? About is it the calm magnesium, or is it just that I'm not eating, hours before bed, or
I mean,
what
I
do you
think,
think?
again, when we focus on all of our pillars of health, that's going to help each pillar. So for instance, if we look at like the 4 key pillars that I always look at is sleep, nutrition, exercise, and connection. I added connection into the pillars that I discussed throughout the pandemic, because I think if we've learned anything in the past few years is how important social connection is for overall health and well-being. So when we are eating better, and this program or any kind of, I don't want to just speak to this program, but any kind of program that you might be following, where you're eating cleaner, you're eating better, you're cutting out processed foods and sugars. And that's my big thing, not the processed food, but like I'm a dessert whore. Can I say that word?
Sure. That's hilarious.
And the candies and all of that. I mean, that is my weakness, right?
Yeah.
And the program, allows me to cut it out and mindfully so, as Gina would say. And I'm better for it. So because of that, you could be sleeping better, right? Because your body is just, operating on cleaner fuel, right? Magnesium health. So a lot of people will ask me the differences between, should I take melatonin? Should I take magnesium? Magnesium is a supplement that Health Canada has actually stated that 43% of Canadians are deficient in magnesium. So magnesium is something that, again, I'm not a doctor. It's not my place to tell people to start taking it. But it's a simple test to see if you are deficient in magnesium. You can get it from different foods. You can take supplements like the Calm supplement, and it does help your body. It doesn't bring on sleep, but it does help your body relax, calm down, get to a better state in order to sleep better. So to reduce possible stress and anxiety to help you sleep better. So there could be many reasons why now you're sleeping better. It could be due to the magnesium that you're taking at bedtime. It could be due that you're just treating your body better, right? And that's going to reward yourself with a great night of sleep. It definitely helps. On this program, I always allow myself, I still call it a cheat day. I know she doesn't like the term cheat day, but Saturdays are my cheat days, where I'm just like, I don't have my lemon water in the morning and I just like eat what I want that day. But I feel it that night. I never actually have a great night of sleep that Saturday. So that tells you something. You know what I mean? I still have my cheat days because I look forward to those days. But it does do something for sure.
Yeah, it's a real eye opener. Wow. Yeah, that's good. Well, getting enough sleep is like such a gift, and I feel so lucky. I'm a total, like, as soon as I see my pillow, I'm down.
Yeah.
But one of the addictions that a lot of us have is the phone now, right? And bringing the phone to bed, and like, oh, we'll just look at some cute dog videos before bed, and next thing you know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're still looking at dog videos or whatever. But I know a lot of people use Instagram Reels or TikTok as a way to wind down. But can you talk to us a little bit, Alanna, about like what all this technology is doing for our sleep quality, like laptops, phones, having the TV on, like falling asleep with the TV on, like how is that affecting our brain health and and our
So, I mean,
sleep.
here's the thing. In my opinion, we are a sleep deprived society. And I think tech is the number one cause for that for sure. If we go back to sleep hygiene, setting boundaries around tech does fall under one of those practices of sleep hygiene. My views on tech, though, has changed throughout the years. The old Alanna would have said, get it out of your bedroom. Have a place in your home, a docking station outside of your bedroom, and remove all tech completely. And I still stand firm behind that. If you are really someone who is struggling with sleep, if you are watching this and you're like, I need to make some serious changes to my sleep health, that is the number one thing that you can do, is just to remove tech completely from the bedroom. And that's for a few reasons. One, if we just look at our brain and getting that restorative sleep, think of your brain as having that sleep switch. Staring in front of those bright screens right before you go to bed keeps that sleep switch off on your brain. So your brain still thinks that you're awake. So you might fall asleep. A lot of people will fire back and say, well, I fall asleep great to the TV, or I fall asleep great after, watching a show on my phone. Yeah, you might be sleeping, but your brain still thinks that it's awake. So you're getting that junk sleep. You're not getting that restorative sleep. More importantly, though, aside from that, tech can be a huge obstacle to our sleep, because it's what are we bringing into our mind? What are we absorbing right before we go to bed? And for that reason, if you are more sensitive to certain stressors and certain anxieties and worries, getting rid of that tech can be a game changer. So that's for someone who's really struggling with sleep and who really wants to make some really serious lifestyle changes. If you're someone who's watching though, and this is where my views have changed, if you're someone who's watching though and thinks, I sleep okay, there's probably some things I can do better for sure, I would prefer you to just set those boundaries on what tech you're allowing in. There was a theory that was floating around about a year or two ago, and a bunch of media picked it up. It was called like revenge bedtime procrastination. And really the term stemmed from, those evening hours for many people, especially parents, let's say, and I'm going to say it because I am one, especially for women, are gold to a lot of people, because that's when our kids are asleep, our work is done, our chores are done, dinner's cooked and cleaned up and put away, our responsibilities for everybody else are over. And now I have an hour to 2 to 3 before I got to go to bed. That's just mine. And please don't tell me that now I can't watch my favorite show. I can't mindlessly scroll TikTok. I can't catch up with a friend on FaceTime, because that's the only time of the day that I'm able to do this stuff. And that's all I want to do. So I honestly did always feel bad telling people not to do that, because I was also that woman that was dealing with little kids at bedtime, making dinners, cleaning up. And now I'm like, now I can't watch my show. Like, no. So this is where I think it's more important to set boundaries on what we're allowing in. So what are some, maybe there's certain things to not watch before you go to bed. If you're more sensitive to news, watching the news headlines right before you go to bed, not a good idea. Certain shows that might amp up your anxiety or your worries, not a good idea. What are the shows that make you feel good? Mine are Friends and The Office. I put that on before I go to bed. One episode, I'm great. This isn't me giving you permission to like stream an entire season till 2:00 in the morning, but a show that's going to make you laugh and just make you feel light and airy before you go to bed, watch it. It's fine. If there's social media accounts that make you feel good, we all know the ones that make us feel good. We all know the ones that make us don't feel great. We all know the people who fill our tanks. We all know the people in our life who empty our tanks. Don't talk to the emptiers right before you go to bed. Talk to the ones that are going to fill our tank right before we go to bed. So that's really on you, the watcher, who really wants to make those sleep changes on, setting those boundaries and allowing what you can allow in. That being said, the number one argument I get is, I use my phone as my alarm clock. I get it. Fair enough. I will say stores still sell alarm clocks.
Yes, they do.
Even if you use your phone as your alarm clock, it doesn't have to be the last thing you look at when you go to bed and the first thing you reach for when you wake up in the morning. And if you can walk away from anything, focus on that morning, focus on that consistent morning time and what you allow in right in that morning, because that's going to dictate the rest of your day and how you fall asleep at night, how well or not well you fall asleep at night. And if you can give yourself 30 minutes when you wake up of not connecting to the outside world, because as soon as we check our social media, we check our emails, we're allowing all that chaos in, and that's how the rest of our day is going to go. Use that 30 minutes for you, whether it's you and your kids, you and your partner, whatever, you and your dog. Just use that time for you, to organize your day, to be in your thoughts, be in your mind, and then let the world in.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that because, we're learning so much now about our brains and how much the influence we actually have and the ability to change, all these patterns and ways of thinking that we've grown up with, and really, undo a lot. And what a beautiful time to do that before bed. I actually, sometimes I'll listen to those sleep meditations with like Idris Elba or Matthew
Yeah,
McConaughey.
there's
My husband.
totally.
Yeah.
Not all
Yeah,
tech
but
is bad. There's some great apps that can help you too. Absolutely.
yeah, but I love this notion of like feeding your brain with good things and then waking up in the morning again. And, because a lot of people wake up with dread, and sometimes that's because of all this chaotic activity. So, why not, it's like parenting yourself. Just be gentle with yourself when you wake up and give yourself the best half hour imaginable to start the day. It's
For sure.
Yeah, so good. Oh my gosh, Alanna, this is great. You help so many people. Like, I think it's wonderful what you're doing. And, because yeah, a lot of people, we think about moms who are sleep deprived. That's a huge, huge deal. But all of these tips that you're giving, I mean, it really, really helps anybody at any age. And like you said, like, look how how parents create these rituals with their kids for a good night's sleep. And I was reading about sleep, and how important it is, what the long-term effects of sleep deprivation can be. And they're linking it to dementia, and that's scary stuff. Like,
Yeah, we have to put,
it
I have seen a shift in that. We have to put the same importance and value of sleep health as we do nutritional health and physical movement. Because I mean, listen, those are all important as well, for sure. But I have seen a shift, and maybe because I'm in the industry, so I'm around it more. I have seen a shift in people. We used to wear sleep deprivation as that badge of honor, where I think now people are putting more stock into their sleep health, which is great. Yeah, which I'm always
yeah.
happy to see.
I think it's great too. I have a question for you, and whether or not this is a myth, but I've always heard like sleep before midnight is, you want to make sure you're asleep before midnight, because after midnight things start changing in your circadian rhythm and you're not going to get the best quality. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so is it better to sleep from 10 till 7 than it is to sleep from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m.? Is there actually a difference, or how does
Well,
that
we
work?
do all run off of a natural 24-hour clock, and that 24-hour clock doesn't shift because we want it to shift. So it doesn't shift when we go through different time zones. It doesn't shift when we have time changes. It stays 24 hours. So our goal is to sync our sleep when our natural drive for sleep is strongest. And that typically is before midnight, rather than like a 1 to 9 a.m., because our body naturally starts to go into a lighter state of sleep around that 4 to 5 a.m. mark. So if we're packing on a lot of sleep towards the end of the night into the early morning, that's when, again, we're not focusing on getting that good quality of sleep that we would in the earlier, I don't want to say evenings, but earlier night times. That being said, though, I don't want people to get too hung up on you have to go to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, because also what can happen at that point is if your body isn't naturally tired at that time, but you just feel like 9 or 10 o'clock at night is a good bedtime to have, then what ends up happening is you go to bed, you're not as tired, you're tossing, you're turning, you're clock watching, you're reaching for your phone, you're spending too much awake time in bed, which just weakens that association. So yes, ideally I would like to see a bedtime prior to midnight. And I think most people would aim to have a bedtime of that, and do that. But really focus on going to sleep when you actually feel tired, not exhausted. You don't want to be crawling
Mhm.
to your bed, but when your body starts to feel sleepy, maybe it's not 9, maybe it's 11, that's when you should be really aiming to go to bed, because then you're going to shorten that sleep onset once you get into bed.
Okay. And if you go to bed and then you're wide awake at 2 and you can't sleep, um, what do you recommend, Alanna? Like, should you just lay there and rest, or is it better to get up, do a couple things, and maybe try to go back to sleep? What's the best medicine for
Yeah,
that?
so this is where it would actually be better if it's taking you longer than 15 or 20 minutes to fall back asleep and it's happening consistently. One night is not no harm in that. But if it's starting to happen
Yeah.
consistently, the best thing that you can do is actually get out of bed. This falls under the CBTI umbrella, the cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It's one of the therapies that are used to get out of bed. Do a quiet and calming activity. Don't turn on every light. Don't check your phone. Don't turn on the TV, but maybe read a little bit in low light, do a puzzle, do some knitting, crocheting, whatever, a small activity for about 15 or 20 minutes until you start to feel tired again, and then try again. And it might be a yo-yo. You might have to do it back and forth. But the more you do it, again, the quicker it'll be once you do get into bed to fall asleep. And then that can help you, the more nights you do it, help shorten that sleep onset and build a more positive association between sleep and your bed.
Okay, that's good. And I guess the other thing I was thinking about was sleep. Um, a good quality sleep, I'm sure that must be really good for your digestion as well and being regular. Like,
Mhm.
a lot of people are, they get up in the morning and, they've got their success. They've had the digestion's good. We're all good. But sometimes when that sleep gets interrupted or whatever, like I almost feel like that can be a relation to constipation or,
Yeah, well, our
just
24
having,
hour, when we talk about our circadian rhythm, this drives a
yeah.
lot of our biological functions, right? Not just sleep. So sleep,
Mhm.
our moods, our when we go to the bathroom, all of these things. So whenever we're having a shift, I mean, this is when you might notice, going through different time zones and traveling, maybe you're not going to the bathroom as regularly as you do, or the times are a lot different. It can affect everything, right? So whenever we're making a shift in that clock, we're not just shifting our sleep patterns and when we're not sleeping, but maybe we're also affecting, when our body gets hungry, when our body goes to the bathroom. All of those functions are affected by our 24-hour clock.
Mhm. Wow. You're amazing. You are fascinating. This is like I never imagined that there are so many facets to sleep and how it affects us and all these little details. It's so important and it must
Yeah.
feel great for you, Alanna, when you're working with someone and they tweak one or two things and next thing you know they're sleeping, right?
Yeah, listen,
I
it is such a satisfying and rewarding job. When you're dealing with adult stuff, sometimes it can be a little bit more work than just like the one or two tweaks. And if we're dealing with like a baby or toddler, it's pretty, you pretty
Yeah.
much know what's happening at that stage. Because there's so much that could be going on with adults. It could be is it something like stress management? Is it something like, women and hormones, or, digestion and food? Like there could be so many different reasons why an individual isn't sleeping well. It could be a sleep disorder. But it is so amazing to go on, get to the other side with that client and to see how well they're doing on the other end. And it's no pun intended. It's night and day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So, Elena, if people want to work with you, is there anything coming up that you'd like to let people know about, or do they just
Absolutely.
contact
We are,
you? Yeah.
yeah, no, thank you. We are currently booking our fall corporate lunch and learns. So you can find out more information at goodnightsleepsite.com. You can email me directly to inquire about those programs and packages. All of our programs are listed on our website. We're already gearing into like back to school and back at it content and stuff. So we're always posting blog posts on our site, and we're on Instagram at GN Sleep Site, Facebook Goodnight Sleep Site, TikTok Alanna McGinn, Alanna.McGinn. You can find us everywhere.
That's so great. Thank you so much. I
Thank
learned
you
so
for
much
having me.
today. Yeah, you're amazing. Thanks, Alana. I'm going to just say goodbye to the audience. I'll put you in the virtual green room and I'll see you in just a second.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you guys so much. I know you learned a ton, and sleep is so important. So I hope you guys are all getting a great sleep and you've got some good tips. Be sure to follow Alanna to learn more about sleep stuff. I can just see us all up till 2 o'clock in the morning going through her Instagram feed to learn about how to sleep properly. But go on there and do that. And I just wanted to let you know this will be my last live episode until the fall. I'm going to take summer off again, like I always do. So I can't wait to have you guys back here for another season. We have so many amazing interviews with incredible guests. So I hope you'll go back into the archives and watch some of those interviews over the summer. And feel free to reach out at any time. Always love hearing from you guys. Make sure to check out our 2 show sponsors, glamjewels.com, GLAMJULZ.com, and brendabadome.com. Use the coupon code Get to Know Them for 22% off of your order with Brenda. Have an amazing summer. Love you guys all so much. And thanks for all your support and viewership. You are amazing. Keep on showing the world your sparkle, and I'll see you back here in the fall.